looking at this tree, I figured it would be a perfect time to do a trimming video on how we trim our deciduous trees. This is again an American Hornbeam. It was collected on this about 200 feet or 200 yards where we're sitting right now. This tree has been wired and shaped and refined over the last few years, and it's time for a seasonal trim back. We typically trim them back differently depending on what our goals are. With deciduous trees, it's always bud allocation. You're always trying to equalize the strength of your inner stuff with the outer stuff. The inner stuff is always going to get weaker because your outer buds are getting the lion's share of the sunlight. It's going to want to extend and elongate. You're going to cut that back and redistribute that hormone to activate closer, tighter buds. Now, if you're doing that, it's because you're trying to create ramification. You're trying to keep it dense and compact. Sometimes we want to let it grow out to thicken the branches. So you really have to decide which way, what you're trying to develop with this tree. With this tree, the branches are even still kind of thin because they're less than 10 years old, every one of them. They are thread grafts. They are slowly thickening up over the years. This is not a race, right? But ideally we want our lowest branches to be the thickest. As you work your way up, they should get thinner and closer, and every area should get its place in the sun. So what I'm going to do is cut back for structure, make sure that we're not going to start developing reverse taper in sections of these branches, because if you do have an area that you have 3, 4, 5 buds sticking from the same location and you leave them, you're going to get these bulges that you're going to have to cut out and start over. You are constantly cutting back, but you shouldn't have to cut back all the way to a stump and start over because you didn't address an issue early on. So I'm going to start with the branches on the bottom and I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to discuss it a little bit while we're doing it. First branch, if you look at this branch, it's got decent structure and movement and taper. However, there's some issues. If you look closely, you can see that there's a little bud that's coming from the base here. There's some buds that are coming straight down here. This is actually a barbell branch at this point. These are from the same distance. We have little suckers that are starting to pop in between buds. So what I need to do is come in here and decide what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to eliminate. Looking at this branch, I want to eliminate any barbells. I like the smaller branch. These two are about the same thickness. I like this attitude a little better than this one. This did help fill the pad when we first brought it, wired it, but now it's not necessary because we have a branch here to kind of take the place. By the way, these will root as hardwood cuttings in the mist. You can always try that. So you can see how I've eliminated the barbell branches. Next thing I'm going to do is eliminate any little buds that are going straight down or straight up. Also, looking at this branch all the way out, you'll see branches that are coming at the crotch of where it forks. Sometimes you may want to shorten it back to a tighter bud. Sometimes you just eliminate the buds that are growing straight down. It really depends on what your goal is with this branch. What I want to do is actually continue to let this get a little longer. Because this is the first branch, I really kind of want this to be about double this size. So I don't want to necessarily start chasing it back too hard yet. As a matter of fact, this branch here that was a sacrificial was left on there because I wanted more foliage mass on here to help thicken this. But at this point, I'm still taking it back for structure periodically, just to keep the vigor tight into it. So this, looking at this, we have an issue with, this is going straight up, this is going straight down. We don't need either one of these. I'm going to eliminate this to this one, just a little bit closer. I've created more taper by cutting that back, and I've eliminated, it was kind of straight. This was kind of filling this space. This will fill it just with wiring. This will be great. I do have a branch that's coming straight down here. I'm going to eliminate that. These are good. I can wire that. I can wire this. And I'm trying not to eliminate, but like this is a good example. This branch right here, if you see this branch, he's kind of coming out and he's getting a little bit redundant. It's coming out a little full and he's filling the head, but it's also getting a little bit too thick. So cutting this back is literally bringing taper, but it's also going to activate tighter buds. Look at, there was a flower catlin. There's a bunch of them on here. They're all starting to flower, which is really awesome. People really have a hard time with this part. They're just like, oh, I'm afraid I'll kill it. No, this is bonsai. This is what you have to do in order to continue the development of your tree. Next year, I may cut this back. Not this year. It's filling this visually, it's filling this up pretty good. But when you do bonsai, especially when you're doing this tree, you should always think, how beautiful can I make this tree? But what's more important is how beautiful is this tree going to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? Because what you do today could make or break 5 years from now, because you're always looking at the future with bonsai trees, because it's never static. So it's so important to not only prune for new growth, but also take a lot of pictures, do a lot of videos, because the tree's never going to look the same again. It's always going to be a little different in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. Hopefully it's better, especially if you know what trimming it does and improves. Hopefully you're improving it every year, but it's good to look back at these pictures and kind of see your development as well. Something that's important. Yeah, there, that's better. Yeah, that's better. So what I've done, I haven't cut it down to a stump, right? At this point, it doesn't need anything like that. What I did do was cut everything back to structure. I eliminated anything that was too redundant, shortened it. I eliminated anything that had 3, 4, 5 sections growing in the same location. I may go in here and do one more look. It's really neat because this is starting to flower. All trees flower. You don't notice it. A lot of times they're very small. A lot of these, when you put them in a bonsai pot, you don't ever see the flowers, but it's kind of neat to see all the little catlins starting to grow. It's pretty fun. But anyway, this is pretty much trimmed for the year. I don't think I'm going to do much more than a couple little sections of wiring, just in a couple little spots, because frankly the structure is pretty natural. And throughout its growing cycle this year, I'll do some directional pruning and just continue to develop this and refine it to where in my head it'll have about twice as much ramification, but it'll still be opened up to where the sunlight can get in and we can have viable buds. That's my goal, to show this. And also I got to get the right pot for it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.